What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be continuing on with the class guide series. However, as I've already covered all 4 regular trooper classes, I'm going to start to move on to some of the reinforcement classes, since a heap of you guys have requested some of those in the comment section. Rather than just doing a plain old enforcer guide and aerial guide, I'm actually going to cover each individual reinforcement from each faction in the game, just so that I can go into a little bit more depth with each character. In today's video, we are going to be covering my personal favourite reinforcement in the game, which is of course the Death Trooper, and these guys are probably one of the best characters in the game if you do know how to use them properly. Now, these guides are probably going to be a little bit shorter and less in depth when it comes to the star cards and blasters, as obviously there is only one choice for a blaster and 5 star cards to choose from, but I will still try and go as in depth as I can for you guys. So anyway, getting stuck straight into it, the Death Trooper starts off with a base HP of 350, which is actually pretty good considering they're only a reinforcement, and the combination of a few star cards plus one of their abilities can actually buff their health all the way from 350 to 595 HP, but I'll touch on that in just a minute. Their weapon of choice is the DLT-19, and in all honesty, this is probably up there with some of the best blasters in the game. It does tend to drop off a bit at longer range, but at close to mid-range, there aren't many blasters in the game as deadly as this one. As for their sprint speed, they run at a very slightly faster pace than the assault class, although it's almost not enough to even really notice unless you are running a fairly long distance. Considering how big they are and how much health they have, their sprint speed is definitely quicker than it should be, as usually the bigger characters are a little slower than the rest. Now, moving on to their abilities, and they've probably got the best set of abilities of all the reinforcements in the game when it comes to playing the objective. Their R1 ability is the Sonic Imploder, and this is actually a lot more useful than people give it credit for. Now, it only deals around 120 damage even if it lands right at the feet of your enemy. However, it does also blind the enemy, slightly reduce their movement speed, and also reveals them through walls, similar to how Rey's inside ability works. Because of the fairly low damage output, a lot of people assume that this thing is pretty useless, seeing as it can be pretty hard to get kills with, especially compared to the Wookiee Warrior's Imploder ability. However, getting kills is definitely not all this thing is useful for. As I mentioned, it will reveal enemies through walls, so anyone who is even relatively close to where it imploded will be revealed to both you and your teammates, which makes attacking and defending objectives a whole lot easier. Their L1R1 ability is called Overload, and this pretty much just turns the DLT-19 into a rapid fire blaster while the ability is active, not only increasing the rate of fire but also reducing heat build up too, meaning you can pretty much use it forever without needing to cool down the weapon while the ability is active. This ability is so useful for defending or attacking choke points. Pretty much anyone that gets in your line of sight will get melted in seconds, so it is another awesome ability when it comes to playing the objective. Their R1 ability is called Fortify, and this is pretty much just a health buff ability that gives them a temporary boost of 175 HP. Now, without any star cards equipped, this is going to take you from 350 HP to 525 HP, which is pretty crazy considering that's almost the same amount of health as Boba has. So you can see how this ability can be pretty beastly. Now, moving on to the star cards, and like I said, there are only 5 to choose from, and I'm just going to cover the 3 that I usually use, as I definitely think they're the 3 best cards to use for the Death Trooper. However, the other 2 are still really decent as well, so they're all definitely very usable cards. The first card I'm going to recommend is the Battle Hardened card, and this just increases your maximum health by up to 20% when fully upgraded, which adds up to be a total of 70 HP on top of the 350 that you actually start with. This means you'll be walking around with 420 HP, and as I just mentioned, when you use the Fortify ability, you'll get another 175 on top of that, leaving you with a whopping 595 HP while the ability is active. If you think about that, that's almost 4 times the base health of every regular trooper other than the heavy, so effectively you'll be walking around with 4 times the amount of health as anyone who isn't playing as a hero, which is definitely going to give you a massive advantage. The second card I'm going to recommend is the Survivalist Star card, which makes your health regenerate a whole lot faster than normal, recovering at up to 100 HP per second when fully upgraded. That means if you get down to 20 HP, it takes the normal 5 seconds for health to start regenerating, and then as soon as it starts, it'll only take 4 seconds to get back to full health, so effectively you can just take cover for 10 seconds and you'll have full health by the time you're ready to go. Definitely another very handy star card. The last card I'm going to recommend is called Enforcer Training, and this means you'll gain up to 50 HP per kill when the card is fully upgraded. So with both of the last cards I mentioned plus this one as well, you'll essentially be maxing out your HP as much as you possibly can. Plus then each time you kill someone you'll also gain back 50 HP as well. So now moving on to just some general tips when you're playing as the Death Trooper, and the main tip I have is just to make sure you're playing the objective. These guys are absolute monsters when it comes to playing the objectives. Their abilities are all pretty much perfectly matched to take or defend objectives, and you're really not making the most of them if you are just going to go straight for the big kill streaks. As you've probably noticed in this whole clip, I pretty much managed to take control of the objective just by simply setting up and doing what you'd usually do when you're trying to capture a point. There really isn't all that much to it other than just simply stand here and shoot in that direction. You can see I was just constantly moving around to make sure I had control of every single point of entry, and there was just genuinely nothing the other team could do as they weren't really playing well as a team, which made it pretty easy for me and my teammates to take control. Even if they had have taken control of the area, it's as simple as throwing in a sonic imploder to blind and reveal all the enemies, then just using the fortify ability to buff my health, and then essentially just push in and hope my teammates came with me. Most people scare off pretty easy when they see a death trooper coming their way, and if they are dumb enough to try and fight you, then they're usually going to end up dead unless they do have a few teammates to help them out. Other than that, the only real tips I have are to make sure you're using the imploder and fortify abilities as often as you possibly can. I actually tend to throw the imploder down even when there are no enemies in that direction, because even if you don't do any damage, you're still going to reveal most of the enemy team, which just allows you to set up and prepare before they even know where you are. With the fortify ability, it's always good to actually use it before you go into battle rather than after you've already taken damage, as it's not only going to give you more health, but it's also going to scare enemies away a lot easier, seeing as they'll see the yellow bar above your head saying that you've had a health buff. To summarise, you pretty much just need to make sure you're playing smart on the objective, getting yourself into the right spots to make sure you can defend yourself efficiently, and just constantly use your abilities to give you a much better chance of both getting more kills as well as staying alive a lot longer too. So that is going to be it for our Death Trooper guide, guys. Hopefully some of these tips helped you out, and if they did, then make sure to leave a like down below to help support the channel. If you guys do have any tips of your own, then definitely don't hesitate to let everyone know. The more tips the better, so definitely feel free to leave your own tips down in the comment section. If you are new to the channel, then feel free to subscribe and make sure to turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on any Battlefront 2 guides or live streams. Thank you all so much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I will catch you all in the next one.